Hello and a warm welcome to the Federal. I'm Neelu Vyas. Countdown to the 2024 general elections has already begun, where BJP seems to have laid out a roadmap. But the opposition parties are still struggling to find a united front. If you look at the regional parties, they seem to have charted their own course. Congress, if you talk about, it seems to be on a revival mode after the Bharat Jodo Yatra. But the questions are being raised as to what are the left forces going to do? Where is the left heading to, which has been in a terminal decline? Is it ready to counter the majoritarian and the hyper-nationalist politics of BJP? Joining me now is CPIM General Secretary Sitaram Yechury. So wonderful to have you on the Federal, sir.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Welcome, sir. Welcome. But my first question, sir, is that recently on 30th January, when all the political parties were seen together with Congress, and few of them were not able to reach because of the heavy snowfall. But what was the reason why CPIM was not seen there? A lot of questions were being raised. Why did Mr. Yechury not reach Srinagar?
Well, I mean, the issue was that the Bharat Jodo Yatra, as it was conceived and how it began, was essentially a program of the Congress party. Now, all political parties work out or chart out their own programs of interaction with the people, mobilize the people, like we do on a number of occasions, on a number of programs and calls that we give. So this is an internal matter of the party concerned. I mean, that's how it was conceived and that's how it was launched. I mean, it was not launched in consultation with other political parties, etc. And so that was a completely different. It was an individual, and I mean, every party has a legitimate right to do their things. I mean, that was the Congress way of interacting with the people. And I'm glad that when they have finally come down to the streets and started talking to the people, which is very good because the Yatra has evoked a certain degree of response from the people. So since it was conceived in that direction, it was not seen as a multi-party event.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the basic reason.
But people were expecting that all the political parties, especially the opposition parties, would come together. There would be a show of strength put up by Congress, where you would see left, where you would see other parties. At least that was a perception which went out, especially for that day.
But yeah. I mean, that was a perception that was created for that particular day of the culmination of the rally. That is something that cannot happen. It's not a switch you can put on and off, no. I mean, it is a process of consultation that will have to go on, which didn't happen, and I have no complaints about it. I mean, if every party wants to do its own activity, the most welcome, and we would appreciate, welcome, in fact, everybody doing it and going to the people and mobilizing them, particularly the secular opposition.
Right. So you think that there's no acrimony between your party and the Congress just because you were not able to attend the Yatra?
Not at all. Not on this occasion. The acrimony may be there where we are contending each other, like in Kerala, like in other places. That's only natural and that's only healthy in a democracy. But it's not on this aspect of whether I was there at Srinagar or not there at 30th. That is also not of any consequence.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming to the larger question about the opposition parties, Nitish Kumar was seen in a role where he was supposed to carve out a national platform of all the opposition parties to counter BJP. What is really happening on that front? Are you involved in that activity, or that's a distant dream altogether, or there's a lid on it completely?
You see, first thing, please understand, is that in Indian politics, you please understand the character and nature of our polity. We are a plural country with multi-plurality. And we are a federal country with different parties having people's confidence in different states of our country. So in this sort of a polity, it is not a question of trying to create a national hegemony, which was possible when there was a single party rule, which was possible soon after the independence. I mean, for some decades, the Indian National Congress was seen as the pan-Indian party. And now the BJP is trying to emerge as that pan-Indian party. No, but the point is that in all our time and experiences have shown that most of these groupings or coming together of parties always happens at the state level. And in every state, the situation is different from the other.
Right.
So at the state level, it will happen. And what Mr. Nitish Kumar's idea was also precisely that we all have to come together at every state to maximize the pooling of patriotic Indians and the pooling of anti-BJP votes. So that will happen, and it's already happening in many of the states. The process is on.
No, but
But
despite this
unfortunately, one moment, unfortunately, the opposition does not either control the media like the BJP does,
right,
nor does it have that sort of a resources that the BJP has. So the public perception that is thrown out in the public domain is that opposition is in disarray while they are consolidating. That's
right.
not true at all. That's not true at all. And you will see, like you saw in the last round of elections, BJP may have won in Gujarat, but it lost in Himachal, lost in Delhi municipal elections. So you see, things are happening and will happen at the state level. And they are, I think, on the right course.
Right. So you think that the resurgence of opposition will be very, very state specific? It's going to be tailor-made according to the various states we see? Is it going to happen like that? And you would not see one uniform opposition platform coming together for 2024? Is that what you are saying?
The uniformity will come on issues. They will be at the national level on issues. These opposition parties all coming together like we have been doing on many issues in the past. But as far as elections are concerned, the elections would be state specific.
Right.
And recollect our own experience in India. I mean, you can go back to the days of the fight against emergency. The Janata Party, finally the government was formed only after Congress for Democracy of Babu Jagjeevan Rao merged itself with the Janata Party post-election.
Right.
In 1996, the United Front was formed post-election. After Mr. Vajpayee's bid to be the Prime Minister formed the government failed in 13 days.
Right.
And in 2004, the UPA was formed post-election when Dr. Manmohan Singh became the Prime Minister.
Right.
And it's only natural in India's conditions.
No, but the aggressive victory which BJP has had in 2014, then 2019, and whichever political analyst you speak to, they say that all said and done, BJP is coming back to power in 2024. So my basic question is that what is the basis for the opposition to feel hopeful about 2024? What is that one major agenda or maybe two or three factors, unifying factors that could bring the entire opposition together in such a manner that you can counter the hyper-nationalist, majoritarian, the Hindutva agenda of BJP?
You see, the hyper-nationalist, majoritarian, jingoistic also, and Hindutva agenda of the BJP was always accompanied by also a degree of social engineering, a micro-social engineering, if you may, if you have that. And you just have it. And what the political analysts are missing out is actually what is happening to this social engineering state-wise. I mean, where is it going on? So what gives us the confidence is that, the past history of such political analysis, whoever thought that in 1977 Indira Gandhi is going to lose the election? I mean, none of us who were fighting emergency even thought remotely. I mean, we all thought that elections were called because she was confident of coming back.
Right.
But then you saw what happened. So you see, that is where the Indian people, I'm sure, state-wise, if you go to drive, various social dynamics are in operation. And not all these are conducive to the BJP.
But do you still feel, sir, that Congress, looking at the fact, the way Rahul Gandhi's image has transformed, especially during the Bharat Jodo Yatra, now he's taken a bit more seriously than what he was earlier. Do you think that now he's ready to counter the Modi phenomena or the Modi magic, as I may say? Is he ready to really counter BJP, Modi?
Well, it depends on how people perceive him. In the Bharat Jodo Yatra, there's definitely, there was a certain degree of people's empathy with that yatra. Now, how that will consolidate, how that will be actually electorally be transferred. Now, that is something only time will tell. But definitely, the sort of the image building of Rahul that was done by the BJP, I mean, not so much by Rahul. I mean, that has taken a beating to a certain extent with this yatra. Now, it all depends in the future how the Congress party consolidates this for its advantage or for the advantage of the secular forces.
Right. But Mr. Yechury, also given the fact that, there are elections now in Tripura, and I'm especially talking about the role of the left. Tripura, you have an alliance with Congress. In Kerala, you are like firm foes, at two different poles altogether. Now, how does the relationship between Congress and CPIM really manifest? Because in one, I'm really at pains to understand, and I would like to understand from you that how does this relationship function? In one state, you are like a rival, the other, you have an alliance. How does it really manifest?
Well, I mean, it manifests on the basis of the concrete realities in each state.
Okay.
Our understanding is very clear, CPIM, that we need to rally together or maximize the pooling. This is language we've used. Maximize the pooling of anti-BJP votes in every state.
Right.
For the interests of the people and the country.
Okay.
Now anti-BJP vote in Kerala, is there divided between the left and the Congress. And the contention there is who's in a position to contain the BJP in a much better way. And the people of Kerala have chosen between the left and the Congress. And they've chosen us again in an unprecedented way for a second term, which normally doesn't happen. But in Tripura, the question is that the sort of a terror situation that the BJP has created during the last 5 years, being in government, the sort of terror that it's unleashed and violence that it's unleashed, destroyed democracy and democratic actors, and virtually the constitution values don't exist there. There was a need for everybody to come together. Our appeal was to restore the rule of law, restore the rights bestowed, guaranteed by our constitution. And we appealed even to that Tripura Motha, to that party, saying that we should all join together. First, let us restore the rule of law and democracy in Tripura. Then, I mean, our contending positions can be discussed, debated, people can judge. But first, this is the priority. And that explains our understanding there. And I see no contradiction at all. It may appear at the apparent level, superficially. You're here with them, you're opposing them there. But remember, politics.
Yeah, there are reports, Mr. Yechury, that probably there was some kind of an opposition on you going to join the Bharat Jodo Yatra, though you clarified it in the beginning. But was there some kind of an opposition from the Kerala unit of the left that probably you should not have gone, because that's what some few reports said? The Kerala, the left cadres, the Kerala didn't want you to attend the Bharat Jodo Yatra.
Well, in Kerala, the problem and the dispute was not created by the CPM or the left. When the Bharat Jodo Yatra was launched, it was launched with mounting a tirade against the CPM-led LDF government in Kerala and its chief minister in particular. Calling the CPM the B team of BJP. I mean, I mean, calling the CM, the chief minister, all sorts of names, comparing him with Modi, etc. No, these were unfortunate things. I mean, it is not a ball that was set rolling by the CPIM or the left. And therefore, we took a position there clearly. It is Congress parties, their independent activity. We said we wish them all success. We will respond only when we are targeted. And that is what it was. Only when there was an attack on us by them, which was completely unnecessary, in my opinion, in this context, that the response came. Therefore, there was nothing of that sort saying that, you should don't, as I told you, that initially, and our party's collective understanding is, like we take our independent programs of our mass contact and going to the people, Congress is doing this. So we wish all secular democratic parties success in their activities of mobilizing people.
But are all the opposition parties coming together on this Adani crisis, which has unfolded itself, like a gargantuan in the last few days. And we really do not know where the things are heading to. There's no inquiry. There are a lot of questions being asked. What do you really feel, sir, about this whole, post the Hindenburg report, which has come out, and the reaction by the government, the way they have reacted, no inquiry, no questions asked of SEBI. What do you feel about this whole?
The government is in a state of denial. The fact is that information was flowing earlier also that the levels of debt that the Adani enterprises have undertaken is something that is not sustainable. Now, these were only reports. Nobody really mattered. And no political party has raised this. Please remember.
Right.
It was not an issue raised by any political party. What we were talking about was crony capitalism. Favoring certain people against the others, accompanied by the loot of our national assets. But this particular set of allegations, or the whole thing that is emerged from that Hindenburg report. Which is not the handiwork of any political party in the country. And these sort of allegations that are being hurled now, saying that so-and-so party, so-and-so forces, they are the ones responsible for this, is absolutely absurd. They actually merit defamation, if they continue to be, made in this sense. So, what is it that we are asking? We are saying these allegations have come. Our concern mainly is that there are two institutions in our country where bulk of the Indian people park their lifelong savings. One is the LIC, the other one is the banking system, and State Bank of India is the leading bank. Now, all the lifelong savings of this, if that money is invested in these companies and their share value falls, the losses that happen will have to be borne by these people for no fault of theirs. The decision to invest in these companies was not taken by the people whose accounts were there. They were taken by these managements, whether under pressure by the government or not, that needs to be inquired. Now, the point is that this has to be safeguarded, the interests of the people.
Right.
So, therefore, an inquiry is essential.
No, but
and who are the people who can inquire?
So, when the government is in a denial mode, opposition has been asking for a JPC or a Supreme Court monitored probe, and the way the government has responded, so basically they are not ready for JPC, neither for an SC monitored probe. So how does the opposition then rake up this issue now? And it looks completely directionless. Today, the president, the discussion on the president address has already started, and all the parties have started speaking. So is the opposition losing its direction on the Adani crisis again?
No, on the contrary, you'll see in this discussion already the ball has been set rolling by lots of questions being raised on this entire Adani episode. And the government has to answer.
Right.
And surely the government that is in denial will not answer these questions.
Absolutely.
And when it will not answer these questions, then the opposition will have to decide. We've had such situations in the past when the government of the day was obdurate, refused to answer on these questions, and then you know what happened as far as the Bofors thing was concerned.
Right.
The entire opposition had to resign and go to the people finally.
Right.
Now they are pushing, the BJP today is pushing Indian democracy, parliamentary democracy to such a stage. And there we are saying that come clean. What is it? You are along with the rest of us. Under the UPA regime, we formed the JPC on the 3G scam. And then, of course, it was democracy. But now, of course, you say that there's nothing wrong. There's no need for any inquiry.
Right.
If you say nothing went wrong, why are you scared of an inquiry?
Right.
It will only vindicate your position.
Right. But too many leaders don't seem to be very, very open about speaking on Adani. And now, say, for example, people do raise questions about Congress also, that, Ashok Gehlot doesn't speak too much about Adani. Then you have Mamta Banerjee, probably she doesn't speak on Adani because every state has a vested interest and they have pandered to the whims and fancies of those industrialists. So do you see that element of a conflict of interest where the opposition parties also are being silent on Adani?
No, but whatever they may be, as far as Adani himself is concerned, as I said, as far as we are concerned, he's got nothing personal against Mr. Adani, Mr. Gautam Adani.
Right.
It is a question of what is happening to people's money.
Right.
That is the basic issue as far as we are concerned. Now, whatever be the positions of the respective state governments or their interests, etc., on the question of the need for an inquiry, a high-level inquiry, on that, I think everybody will find it very difficult to oppose the need for to have an inquiry.
Right.
Whatever be their personal perceptions, that's apart from it.
Hmm.
The question is whether we need an inquiry or not, and I think on that there is unanimity that there is an inquiry that is required, and to pressurize the government to actually yield to that point.
Right.
And
But
that will continue, even when the debate is begun, and it will continue through the debate.
no, but BJP, when you talk to the BJP leaders, they basically say that, this is an attack on the Indian institution. And they wrap this entire controversy in a nationalistic flavor, saying that, look, this is to target India's nationalism. That is a kind of narrative which is coming up. Then if you probe them further, then they'll say that, oh, during the 2G and the coal scam, you had a CAG report which was there. And on the basis of that, the JPC was ordered. So then the opposition seems to really lose its footing somewhere when these kind of arguments come up.
No, I mean, where is it losing? Because the opposition has been consistent so far demanding this inquiry till today.
Right.
That on this issue, there's been absolutely no differences among the opposition. So that will continue. The question is not whether you had a CAG report or not. You have allegations that have come out in the international public domain.
Right.
You've seen the battering of the shares of the Adani enterprises in the last 10 days. You've seen how more than $1 billion but worth 100 billion now, I think, worth of shares that was lost. So does all this merit an inquiry or not? And plus, there are very important questions that come up, which we have been raising all along when we talked about this crony capitalism. Today, for instance, you have 8 airports and 13 seaports held by Mr. Adani. He's there in a dominating position in the media, in cement, which is essential infrastructure, in defense.
Right.
In defense and in renewable energy, and the global energy, monitor, ranks Mr. Adani as the largest developer of coal power plants in the world. And we are talking of climate change, we are talking of renewable energy. And then the Bangladesh government was to renegotiate an agreement with him. Right. The Sri Lanka government was saying that it was the government of India that put the pressure to grant the thing. Now, what is happening?
Right.
And we have stopped. Remember, we have stopped India in international bids. When Chinese companies have bid in telecom areas, we said it's an issue of national concern, national security interest. When Chinese firms come and bid in the defense production, we refuse because it's in concern of national interest.
Right.
Now, which are these companies that are investing in the Adani enterprises, which has stakes in defense, which has stakes in ports, seaports? And so these are questions that are legitimate. Right. And this very government has stopped in the name of national interest, maybe concern for that, many such international bids, but why were none of these inquired into? So these are the questions that require answers. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. Coming now to the future roadmap of the left, and I'm talking about CPIM, that when you became the General Secretary, at that time, I mean, since 2019, people, started saying that the left is almost dead and, it believes in its ancient formulas, which will not work in today's times. So now, since 2019, it's 2023 now, and we are heading towards the next general elections. When you became the General Secretary, people said that you're going to bring some fresh life into the left party. How successful, sir, really you have been, and what are those new formulas on which you are working?
Well, success always comes with the circumstances and not only individuals. You see, and there you also remember, since I became twice, we won in Kerala, which we didn't have when I became General Secretary. And now Tripura elections are due. Let's see how that will happen. And in all during this entire period, if you notice, whether it is in your farmer struggles, whether it's the struggles against privatization by the workers, whether it's in the campaigns against the new education policy and the changes in education that are happening by the students and by the intellectuals,
Right.
whether it is a question of upholding artistic, independence and their autonomy, or in the struggle for the defense of democratic rights and the civil liberties, it has always been the left that has actually taken the lead in setting the agenda. Now, the point is politics cannot be reduced only to electoral politics. What is the element of setting the agenda before the country?
Right. But sir, earlier left used to raise issues related to economic misery, but no longer do those issues matter to the people. I mean, inflation, price rise, costly gas cylinders. There was a time when these issues resonated and, people could dethrone the governments, but the times have really changed. So has your agenda, I mean, the agenda of the left has also changed? You're right when you say that you've been raising issues related to civil liberty, constitutional principles, democracy or democratic principles. All that is fine. But what are the real issues which resonate amongst the people? Because BJP is trying to mobilize the passions, BJP is trying to mobilize emotions. And in the midst of this kind of a politics, how will you really make yourself relevant to the people? That is the big
meet that creation of what the false consciousness that the BJP is creating. It is creating a false consciousness. They're creating a post-truth society where people's emotions and people's, the emotive appeals and the personality cult, they matter more than actual day-to-day realities. That is what they want to create, and on the basis of those emotions, they want to garner and mobilize votes. But eventually, unless they create such an event whereby such jingoistic emotional appeals will be fanned further, otherwise it's basic back to day-to-day issues. Why did they lose in Himachal? Why did they lose in the Delhi civic elections? Sitting right here in the municipal
Can
elections.
the opposition take the credit? I mean, for this matter, can Congress really take the credit of winning Himachal elections? Because Himachal did have a revolving pattern, an alternating pattern of forming the government. So that was another major reason that there was a sense of fatigue from BJP and people voted for Congress. But honestly speaking, can Congress really take the credit?
There's been a revolving pattern in Kerala since its inception.
Right.
We broke it this time.
Right.
BJP failed to break it in Himachal. Remember that.
Right.
So that's important. So it's not that it's all hunky dory for them. That is why today you'll find that in many of the other social dynamics that I was talking to you about earlier, which will make a lot of difference in very, very crucial states.
Right.
And now you have another round of state elections that will be coming.
Right.
So
which are the states which are really, you're banking on them with a lot of hope? Of course, Tripura is where you entered into an alliance with Congress. Are you really hopeful of doing some kind of a magic in Tripura this time?
Well, let us see. The people will do the magic. We can only appeal to them. And then I think we would be in a much better position than it would be last time, definitely.
So, but will the headlines for the left change? Because since 2019 or even much before that, people have been just saying that, it's the death of the left is dead. We do not know where left is heading to. No policies are clear. All those kind of headlines, cropped up. But in the days to come, is left really going to change those kind of headlines?
The objectivity of such headlines itself is another big question mark. You know as much as I know, or you know better than me. What is the control and who controls these headlines and who manages them? Every day in the morning, what goes on at the front page, what is the content and what is it, particularly in your language papers, is very, very, very strictly monitored. And that is how this false consciousness is generated and created. And that has to be met. The battle is not over the headlines. The battle is over mobilizing and winning over the people.
So I'm saying that you did raise a lot of issues on which you will, further your fight. But my point is that people still say that, this whole orthodox Marxist ideology is very, very invalid in today's times. Do you agree with this premise when people talk about the left like this?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, they find it because it doesn't provide them a shortcut to the solution. What they want is, in these days of instant coffee, and fast food, they want instant solutions. They never get it. It'll never happen.
Right.
And it's only an illusion that you want to be. So it's not that the left is not the only sustainable ideological foundation which can actually improve the situation. And remember, it's not that saying that I was true. I said I predicted this, that the misery will increase, unemployment will increase, etc. It's not taking credit for predicting something gory happening.
Right.
The question is, this is inevitable from the way things are moving today. That you have a situation, like somebody said, if you want your Hindutva Rashtra, please go and take your Hindutva Rashtra. But remember, you and I both will die out of hunger.
No, but Mr. Yechury, but will left continue to wage this ideological fight without that hunger for power to come to the center, to have some more number of Lok Sabha seats, you having a minister at the center? Where is that hunger really when you talk about the left?
No, hunger is for a social change. Hunger is not for a position. If position was what that mattered, the left and the leftists and all of us would have been in a lot of positions earlier. The point is to fundamentally change the social conditions, socio-economic conditions in which our people and we are all living.
Right.
That is the hunger. Hunger is for that social change, not for positions of power.
Okay.
If that were the case, when we would all be in many other places, and remember, that is why the intellectual property right of the left is outside support.
Right.
And I mean, that is something, and that is one demonstration of not having that craving for hunger and position.
So supposing if Congress comes to power at the center, you would still maintain your distance and you will tell Congress that I'm going to give outside support.
Which we did in the UPA.
Right, you did. Yes.
And that is when you actually extended every single basic right of the people, whether it is the right to rural employment, the right to food security, the right to education, the right to information. All these rights came during UPA 1, or the right to our tribals, to the land, forest land.
But when you talk about these ideological bulwarks, and this is how you will further the movements, how do you bring in the youths? How does youth, really relate itself with the leftist forces or the left? How do you bring in more youth?
Well, more youth are coming because right in this today, with unemployment being at a historic high, it is the left and left alone which is actually telling the people, instead of this sort of a loot that is happening to our national assets, if these resources are properly employed in hiking public investments, that will generate new jobs as well as build our infrastructure. Then this youth, which is today going astray because of lack of employment, etc., that will be galvanized into creating a better India. Once you give this youth employment, proper health and education, there's nothing the other politicians have to do. They will build a better India. And it's only the left that gives them this vision that this can be done. There's no shortage of resources in India.
Right.
But they are being looted or they're being misused. So the right policies, then this is the way the youth will be employed, their energies will be utilized by the country, they themselves will thrive as well as India will thrive.
Right.
Nobody else has this vision but us.
Absolutely. So, but what about West Bengal? Tripura, of course, you're hoping to come back. Kerala, you're already in power. But what about the West Bengal, where left seemed to have been in a decline because of the Trinamool Congress? But now, what's really happening in West Bengal? Is the party really reviving?
It is on a very, very significant revival turn on a bend, revival bend, and a lot of youth. And even I'm very, very happily and pleasantly surprised when a lot of energetic youth are coming into to the party, joining in our actions, etc. And also the entire bankruptcy of the sort of politics of the Trinamool Congress is also very clearly unfolding with all those scams that have happened, with all that loot that is happening. Every day there's some section or the other that's on the streets of Calcutta, protesting. And therefore, in order to retain power, the sort of compromising positions it does with the center, that is also clearly there and actually demonstrates the point. It's not the Trinamool victory in Bengal. It is the people's victory in keeping the BJP away in Bengal. That has actually happened. So that opens up the way for the left's revival, which I'm sure will happen sooner than later.
But since you're saying, one last question I would like to ask, that since you're saying that already a lot of youth are getting inclined towards the left, but in today's times, in social media times, why is there still not a very prominent presence of the left on the social media? The way we look at Congress, the way we look at BJP, or for that matter, even Trinamool Congress, they have a huge presence on social media. Look at Aam Aadmi Party. These are all opposition parties, but they're doing so well on the social media. But what has happened to the left?
No, but left is there on the social media. You may not find it at the national level so much as a thing, but in every state. The left in the social media is very, very prominent, and that's where it matters. We want the grassroots connect. Not the publicity media connect. We want the grassroots connect, and there we are very, very active. But you're right, we need to improve a lot more, which we are trying to do, and we shall in the days to come.
So as you say, no hunger for power, but you will continue to remain like a check dam for BJP.
That we will, but the hunger is for social change. The hunger is to make a better India.
Okay. Thank you, sir. It was lovely having you on the program. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Always. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more interesting updates.